We are.
Hello and welcome. Today we have a very special, we're switching things up a little bit today. We have a special guest with us. It's a friend, mentor, and teacher of Amiee and I that we are really excited to have with us today to chat and to just, explore and see what wisdom she can add to our little chat this morning. So I think Amiee has a little something to introduce her and read her bio, but we have Holly here with us. Hi, Holly.
Hi, Lexi. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Happy to have you with us today.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you.
Good morning, Holly. Good morning, Alexis. So Holly has over 30 years experience in psychotherapy, working with individuals, couples, and families. Her education includes a master's degree in counseling. She currently has a private practice using a blend of spiritual direction and traditional therapy. Her training includes working in the healing methods of both North and South American teachers and healers. Holly has worked as a primary therapist for over 15 years at a northern Wisconsin reservation clinic serving children and families. Holly is a former wilderness guide and whitewater guide. She also leads expeditions to sacred sites internationally. She is a level 11 frequency of brilliance practitioner. Holly is a fourth level initiate of the Andean teachings of the Quiro of Peru since 1994. So thank you so much, Holly, for joining us and bringing your wisdom today.
Thank you, Amiee. Sweet of you to have me.
And then maybe just in your own words, so that we have a little bit of a background that Amiee read, and maybe just in your own words, like today, 2021, what it feels like you are or want to share, or what you want to share about yourself.
Basically, I guess my first inclination is to say, all of those words, none of it means a hill of beans. We strive for this identity and figuring out who we are from the moment that we're born. Actually, in utero, I just watched the Secret of Babies last night about, the in utero experience. And it really, in some ways, it dovetails exiting the world, because a baby comes in with, no preconceived notions, and its way of relating in the womb, to this environment is watery and, auditory, but there's finding that it's auditory through the skin. And so it's about laying the senses down in kind of a sequence, about laying down the physical touch, which is the first thing that we, as human beings, it's our first sense that develops. And then after that comes smell. And the last one is sight. And so as we're exiting into a new world, we're birthing into a new world, one of the first things to go, of course, is the sight and the smell and the taste. And then eventually, it's about moving from one dimension, to another. And so all of those words that you use to describe me, I'm hearing them like, oh, that's an interesting person. I wonder where she lives. It in some ways has no bearing or no relevance, because as we move through our lifetime, all those things that we have because of our cultural conditioning and the fact that we are human, all of those things that we strive to do, develop our talents and our gifts, discover what they are, further our sense of communicationship and relationship and connection. And then you go backwards through this cycle. I just had a birthday and turned 71. So I'm really focusing on, like the early shamanic teachings when Carlos Castaneda, like in the 70s. And all of a sudden I'm kind of going back there, having made this huge journey through many teachers and many different systems. And all of a sudden it's like, some of the words of the early teachers, which is using death as an advisor. Well, if you use death as an advisor, I mean, what a magnificent thing, because it means that you're completely in the present moment at every moment. And you're not thinking about, oh, that person's name is, Holly, Jane, Timmy. That it doesn't matter. You're not thinking about the past or what you've done. But a lot of my life's work, of course, has been either through therapy and shamanically, is to switch the neural emotional components of how we experience the world, so that we can be on a new track, so that we can be on the new ox cart of going through the prairie. And instead of falling into those ruts of the cultured conditioning and of what we think we are and who we think we are, we're setting a new track. And if there was a manifest destiny, which of course is a bad word in this country, and rightfully so, but if there is one, then it's to free ourselves. Mm. And I do believe that this country leads in that energetically and spiritually, leads us to a new track of freedom of the soul.
Beautiful. Thank you. And happy belated birthday. I know we we saw you on your birthday and it was good.
Oh, that's right. We had our little Sangha meeting, our IU meeting.
Now we gathered as an IU.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about that this morning, about like this country, and it's, there is just so much going on, and when you really like the why are we doing this, like on a soul level. So I think you brought in such beautiful words to describe what I was actually just feeling into this morning myself, like really. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that was beautiful. If you were to really bring in, you often say when you're teaching, how are you going to grow corn with this? That practicality piece of being on a shamanic path, opening to a deeper spiritual connection with life, rather, and moving away from the dogmas that we have, especially here in the United States. We have a lot of dogmas. What would your wisdom be with your years of study and your years of teaching? And now you're talking about revisiting things as you've entered this different stage with this birthday. What are the practical pieces, the kernels of corn that you would want to plant around the value of the shamanic path, the spiritual path?
I guess, for me, those paths are blended. Not only have I studied in a different, a variety of different modalities, but the true shamanic path is the same as the path of the yogi Christ. So, I mean, we're all in this together, no matter our culture, no matter our religious or spiritual varieties. We are all human beings on the path of self-realization or ascension. And whether we are a first level being, whatever that means, a being that is primarily interested in survival, and then survival of the family, survival, and we all are that first level being, and we have all been that. But as you go through many, many lifetimes, there are different dimensions. And so one's not better than the other, just like one astrology sign is not better than the other. But we're all born with a divine plan, and we are all involved in bettering ourselves, trying to be better human beings, how to love more. And when you get to the basis of all great religions and all great philosophers, really, all great yogi Christ, whether it's Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or any of them, the bottom line is that we come from love. We are made of love. And what does love do? How is love practical? Love heals. And that's what you are. You heal. You are made of love, and love heals. That's its action. That is its practicality. So loving ourselves home, and by loving ourselves and knowing truly who we are as a divine spirit, not as this person who did that or knows how to fix cars, or knows how to do therapy with children. It doesn't matter. What matters is following your heart, your divine plan. Joseph Campbell always talked about, follow your path of bliss. It's just another way of saying what the saints have always done. Whether it was Saint Francis, or whether it was Mother Mary, whether it was Yeshua, following your divine plan is what's important. And that's what's practical. And practicality, yes, it grows corn in your life because that's the fruit, that's the flower. And what is that flower? The inner peace, the inner love, what you can share with your fellow man, and how you feel about yourself.
So good, Holly. So good.
I want to take us back a little bit. So we are kind of, talking about present day, and like all of that is so exactly perfect. And to take us back a little bit to when you, like, what brought you into this path, or if it's specifically like, what was it that drew you to, say, the Andean tradition? Like, thinking back, was there a moment or was there a time when there was some type of calling, or just knowing that that was the way to go at that point in time for you?
Wow, you can go back a long ways when you're 70. We can get caught in these highways and byways forever. It's funny because what I flash on is actually like a pre-verbal memory of this force. I had no name for it, and I talked to this force that had an extension of itself on the right side and on the left side of me. Eventually those turned into my thumbs. So I would talk to my thumbs because I needed a physical representation. I had no idea what this was. It's just, it's kind of like something that's always been there. Yeah, something that's always been there. And I guess, following that, one of the first things that I was aware of was the information that I wanted as a teenager, as a young adult. What wasn't there, I couldn't find it, and finally found it in some esoteric bookstores on the Ascended Masters. So I read everything there was on the Ascended Masters, on the I Am movement, on the lost years of Jesus, of the teachings of India, And so I followed that path. I knew I had a date when I was 28. It's a multiple of 7. 7 is a sacred number. So at 28, I left my boyfriend, my house in Minneapolis, and, went to an ashram for about almost a year, and, fulfilled that part of what I wanted to know and understand. And it was a good experience, but I was craving my roots, and my roots, I felt, were in the land, in what I called shamanism at the time, but it was, whether it was Celtic or the land that I was born in. It's a Lakota Anishinaabe border in Minneapolis. So following that, I hung out with Sun Bear for a while and invited him into my home in South Minneapolis. I had some Lakota teachers there and did sweat lodge every week, and followed that path of my own internal knowing and my memories I had bleed through, of different lives. And then when my toddler son, who was very blonde and very naked because he was potty training, so he's running around, this little white boy with blue eyes and white blonde hair, sticking up all over, and there was a knock on the door, and some of the AIM leaders came in and said, you have never been to a sweat lodge where the grandparents have come. And it was clear to me that my time as this white person, that this was not cool. It wasn't kosher now. it wasn't something that I could pursue, even though I was working with a medicine man, and we sweated together every week. And so I kind of brought that part of my life to a close, and sought more knowledge from Celtic shamanism, Mayan shamanism, and South American. And when I say shamanism, it's really the way of the healers. It's not about being in the business of turning out little shamans. That's the old shamans can't be replicated. They could turn themselves into boas or jawars, and I studied with jungle people. I studied with many Peruvian healers, and that was all good to understand the difference between North and South America. And in these traditions in South America, the mandate is if you receive the initiations or the karpais, you receive these things from the people, your mandate was that you shared them. So it was a whole different mindset, from North America, because we were in the middle of the 70s. We were in the middle of Native people here taking their power back. And so it wasn't appropriate. Whether my mother was Yakima or not on the West Coast, I just refused to play that Chimokaman game. The how much blood do you have? So I never found that out, nor does it matter to me. So when I it didn't necessarily stop learning about North Native American ways, but I stopped participating in the rituals, despite the fact that the rituals and the ceremonies and the things that I had taken part of in the vision quest, the wopulas, the uwipis, all of that, powerful experiences of a spiritual nature. But that was my foundation, I guess, in Minneapolis, and then South America. And then at some point I was really done with male teachers, and not that I didn't honor them, but I really wanted a female teacher. And so, every time I've asked Spirit directly for something that I really wanted, you receive it. Spirit is always listening. And so I discovered Luz Clara, and Chilean shamana, and she's been with me now 27 years, or I've been with her. We've been friends and have taught together, all over the world. And so that's a piece of it. And then more recently, that spiritual, search has led me to a more Eastern path because of the discipline and because of its adherence to a specified way of attaining self-realization. And so, there's many paths. Somebody used to say to me, all paths, all spokes of the wheel lead to the center. And he was the first one that told me, the work's got to grow corn. You've got to see something that shifts in your life if your path is truly your path.
Amazing, beautiful. I'm going to circle us back. I am interested, you were speaking of the different stages of the paths during our IU meeting. And if you were to feel in with all of your wisdom and all of your experience in life, how is death currently advising us or asking us to shift and dance with it?
I think death is showing herself to be, a beautiful lover at this point in our life. And it doesn't mean that, many of us haven't gone through our grief and our suffering, that has been present with us. But obviously the pandemic has shifted us globally, brought us together globally. So using death as an advisor that way What do we want to do as a species? What do we want to do as a people? What do we want to do as Britons or French men or Americans, or what is it, that we personally stand for? How do we get involved in our neighborhood? How do we make it a better place? How do we have compassion for those that don't have as much? And we have that latitude here in the United States of focusing, on our spiritual life, and in other places, unless you have a platform of survival. So you need, shelter, and you need food, and you need warmth or cooling, as the climate may be. You need those things before you can really launch yourself, on a spiritual path. And yet it's amazing that many of the most spiritual people are the people that you would meet, on the street. These are the people that I met in Guatemala, in the jungles, in the Amazon, in Peru, in Chile, in Central America. What moved my heart the most was in the midst of their, what we would call poverty in the United States. I really realized that we, as Americans, as Western people, are the ones that are bereft, because our spirituality, it keeps us poor, the poverty of that spirituality. For example, I walked into a cathedral, I think it was in, I don't know, Guayaquil or someplace. And so I'm praying to the mother there, and they have beautiful statues, to the Divine Mother. And of course, in the representation of Mother Mary, but Divine Mother, and the flowers and the pictures and all of that. And I'm doing my little prayers, and a man comes in, and he's got, the tire tread sandals on. And you can tell his hands, are just, all beat. And he's got the, the clothes, and just the humility and the love radiating off him when he touched the energy of the divine feminine will forever put me to shame, because his heart was so big. He was so magnificent. It really touched me forever, that man's heart. So
I'm tearing up, so you're gonna have to go ahead, Alexis. I'm over here crying. You go ahead. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, as I'm feeling into that, I'm wondering if there's maybe a practice that you can share, or what it looks like for you, kind of like either on a daily basis, or maybe in the past. I mean, it's been, a very 2020, 2021, it's been a very intense, period of time. Are there any practices or things that you've been doing that kind of help bring you back into that heart space?
Wonderful question. I think one of the things that's most important for us to do right now is to not get caught up in any blame or guilt or anything. Simply take today and clean your bubble. So the Karo call it in the North Andean shamanism, where I did most of my training. They call it your pakpo. So your bubble, your auric field, that Da Vinci man, it goes out at least 3 feet, above, below, and to all sides. And to keep that bubble clean means that you keep your heart clean, you keep your mind clean. And there are practices in the I Am movement. You call in Saint Germain or the Violet Flame Angels, and you place that holy fire in this bubble several times a day, and however long you can focus on it in your morning meditation, a good 5 minutes in the morning or 5 minutes at night throughout the day, because our prayers are unceasing. Our communication with the divine is unceasing, and it takes just a little nudge to remind ourselves. And I have to remind myself every day, continually clean that bubble, that auric field. Where are my thoughts? Just being aware. Where are my thoughts? Where are my feelings? Where am I joining mass consciousness? And of course, mass consciousness is in the internet and in the news and in the radio. And so, it's best not to avail ourselves of those lower level, really, mass consciousness, because the consciousness that's right above that is ours too. And that is where keeping yourself on a different trajectory, a little bit higher vibratory plane, so that you are constantly in communion with the divine. Whether that means I go out and talk to trees or the grass or the clouds or the water or Divine Mother or Babaji Krishna, whatever that means. However, that translates for me. And so that's where we can learn from the indigenous, because they're very grounded. They're wisdom keepers for all of this ancient knowledge that once was known, to all of us. And so, we're in that battle of light and dark, and we're ending one huge cycle in the Mayan cycle or the Vedic. We're ending one huge cycle of darkness, and we're moving into a cycle of light. And so there's going to be the push-pull between the consciousness. It's whatever you choose. Where do you choose to place your attention? So 5 minutes of meditation in the morning, 5 minutes of meditation at night, looking at the sun at noon and going, hallelujah, there it is. Whatever prayer you want to make, whatever mantra you want to do, it doesn't matter. It matters where your heart is. And yes, there are languages that evoke spirituality. There is in the songs, of the Anishinaabe people, of the Lakota, of that longing for God, in the Vedic, in the Hindu, in the Buddhists, that the mantras that they do continuously keeps your mind and your heart elevated. And so using death as an advisor there, you can go. Gandhi died with the name Rama on his lips. God. And the belief is, you can see it, you can feel it. It's a trajectory back home. And you don't have to be in fear. You can welcome that death. And know that your relatives and your loved ones are safe on the other side. And you can continue to pray, because it's a doorway. It's a doorway between worlds.
Absolutely. You are an international traveler, and you are very cozy here in the upper Midwest of the United States. Where is there a place in the world that has most plugged into your heart?
I think you know that answer.
With how heart-centered and heart generating you are.
You know that I love Peru without measure, without reservation. I love the Apus, the mountains there. And, and I love the teachings there. I love the sacred experiences that I have there. I love the people there. I simply love the people there. I love the stones and the rocks and the walkways and the flora and the fauna, all of it. And yet I have that love deep in my heart for the sacred places in this continent. And as I get older, I just bought a little O2 RV, and I'm going to, travel this country for a while. With COVID and not being as comfortable flying, it takes a while to get to Peru. I still am planning a trip to Peru next year. We'll see. I think there's about a half a dozen people. I keep my trips super small so that we can move easily, quickly, and at the whim of spirit. So I do want to go back to Peru, but I love the sacred places here on this continent, and the mountains, the prairies, the oceans, all of those. They just make my heart sing. I love the earth,
Amazing. Have you traveled there with your children? I know they're adult children now, and you are about to be a brand new grandma again. Have your children gone with you? Is it something that is becoming a lineage in your family?
Yes, in a way, and no, in a way. Kids always, throw over whatever the parent school them in because they have to find their own way. My daughter, in between her college years, did take off on uh, a 3-month tour of Central America. She speaks Spanish fluently, which I don't. I have this horrible mixture of Spanglish. Um, and my son was 3, and he would fall asleep on the couch when we had, like a pipe circle at my house in South Minneapolis. And I would invite in Jerry Dearly to teach us the Lakota songs, the sacredness and the words behind this sacredness, and invite in Chris Lath and Joellen Lath and Thunder Horse, I think is his Lakota name. And they would come and do pipe with us and teach us the songs. And so our little group there, our little sangha, our little ayu, was very tight, and we moved and traveled together. And my son was part of that. He used to fall asleep on the couch and cry in the morning if he had missed the pipe. So we'd have to get it out so that he could hold it, again. And but yeah, he was in Sweat Lodge by the time he was 4. Um, and Maya has continued the tradition of she's been to Chile with me when she was 21, and Justin, I think his first time that he took ayahuasca, he was 13. So, my children have been schooled in it and in the magic and in the medicine, but they're very mainstream parents right now. So we won't talk about any of this.
Okay, perfect.
Get myself in trouble.
We don't want to get you in any trouble at all.
I have a great propensity for getting in trouble.
I love that. Is there anything else that is coming up for you in this discussion? Anything that you would just want to share or have our listeners hear, or just in the moment, anything that's coming up right now, giving you space to just drop in anything that may be coming up for you?
Well, I think we can get lost, in the highways and byways of each of our varied experience. And the truth is that our experience, both good and bad, is exactly what we have needed for our soul development. It is what we have called forth in order to evolve on this platform of evolution called Earth. And I think the most important thing that I would like to leave any listeners with is that just to listen to your own heart. And yet that's not enough guidance sometimes. And it's important to do your prayers and your practice, your meditation when you get up in the morning, and do it at night and review your day. Are you the person that you have always wanted to be? Look back at that child that was 5. What did that child want? What did that child aspire to? And it's not in words, it's in a feeling. So look for that feeling, because that feeling, that's God, that's spirit, that's your own spirit. And that's what's important. So thank you for allowing me to go on in this fashion today.
No, it's been amazing. And where can people find information about you? Where can people find you?
Find me, or
yeah, if you want to share your website, or if there's the easiest way to just, if people are interested in looking you up.
They would go to www.sacredjourneys-wi for Wisconsin.com. And I think I have some links on there to some of my other teachers.
And some books that you've written as well. We will go ahead and drop your website in the show notes. So if anyone wants to find it with ease, that is where it will be. Thank you so very much for joining us today, Holly. It was such a joy, and it's always a joy to get to work with you and see you and chat with you.
Thank you. Thanks for your
Thank you, Holly.
blessings.
Blessings.